A social development spokesperson Lumka Wolifant is trending on Twitter, and this time because she refused to speak in English on Radio 702. Her refusal comes after she was asked to discuss how the Social Development Department intended to pay grants to beneficiaries next month. The Social Development spokesperson insisted on speaking isiZulu, and in the past she has spoken English on the show, and she was being questioned on Monday morning by host Xolani Gwala, who attempted to get her to speak English to accommodate all South Africans, but Lumka refused. Xolani subsequently hung up the phone on her. Let's listen into the interview which happened earlier today.
Let me quickly now turn to Lumka Olifant, spokesperson for the Department of Social Development. Lumka, nice talking to you. Good morning. No, thanks indeed for coming through, Lumka. So just picking up on what Mr. Bellamont is saying, he says that SASSA has requested them not to divulge the number until Treasury approves. So the assumption here is that Treasury will approve the deviation. Will it? So yeah, can you please? Yeah, all right. So just for the benefit of all my listeners, could you please just respond in English, please? Okay, Lumka. This is this medium. Elsewhere, I would certainly, without any doubt, allow you to do that. But this medium, please respect it as much as I respect you. All right, but the premise is please respect the medium. And I don't think that we have to spend time on that issue so that we can continue to cover the critical issue. People want to know, will the grants be paid? Lumka, if you don't want to talk, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to move on because you clearly don't want to do this and you're determined to disrespect the medium, and there's absolutely nothing I can do about it.
According to media reports, Radio 702 has responded to the controversy. It says Lumka Wolifant speaking in isiZulu was an attempt to obfuscate the real issue. They say Wolifant should have notified the station of her intent to speak in isiZulu prior to going on air. And they also say the radio station is not unreasonable, or it wasn't unreasonable for Xolani Gwala to expect Wolifant to respond in English. 702 remains committed to the promotion of a diversity of languages, and English is the medium of the station as per the broadcast license issued by ICASA. Now, there are mixed reactions to how a radio interview could have been conducted between breakfast host Xolani Gwala and spokesperson of the Department of Social Development, Lumka Wolifant. Earlier today, Lumka Wolifant decided to respond to questions in isiZulu, which is one of the 11 official languages. The host responded by saying their radio station is an English medium platform, and since then, social media has been abuzz with criticism leveled mostly at the radio station host, and some commentators also say the guest was trying to avoid the issues and was disrespectful of the medium. We ask, is language policy more important than the message? And you can give us a call on 011-542-2186 or tweet at ANN7TV or at I am Cindy Mabi. And joining us on the phone line, Professor Pitika Ntuli, an African historian, and in studio Ben Theron, who is with the organization Undoing Tax Abuse as the portfolio manager. Good evening to you. And we have advocates here, Omar, constitutional law expert. Let's start with you, Mr. Theron. Just your reaction of number one, how we try to accommodate diversity and primarily the protection of languages and the right to use it at various platforms. What is your view?
First of all, let us put out a position is that all 11 languages are very important to Africa because the diversity, the diverse society that we have must be represented. However, the English is the language of medium at the moment, and thence the interview was conducted in English. If Lumka had to inform the station beforehand that she wants to do it in this way, they would have had a translator there. The sad thing is that the spokesperson have become the topic of discussion rather than the content. If you think about it, there are 50 million South Africans today waiting and absolutely waiting in anticipation to hear what the future holds from the 1st of April. As opposed to talking to the content of the discussion, the language issue and the spokesperson have become, so there are 17 million recipients anxiously waiting for an answer about what's happening on the 1st of April. None of that was discussed today.
All right, we'll get to that part. Mr. Zaire Omar, just on the constitutionality of it all, we know that there are various charters and regulations that govern the various sectors in society. And if we do find ourselves in that precarious position where, one, if the Broadcasting Act says that you're an English medium platform and you have a guest that speaks in vernacular, what is the onus, though, in terms of accommodating that guest, or is it the prerogative of the broadcaster to do as they wish?
Look, there are two material sections in our Constitution. These are Section 6 and Section 31. Now, Section 6 makes reference to 11 official languages. Section 31 gives a clear, unequivocal right on every South African to speak the language he or she is most comfortable in. So the argument of vertical or horizontal application does not feature here. Section 6 is an obligation imposed upon government on the public. Section 31 is an obligation amongst people themselves. The various media houses must employ people who are competent in all official languages. It was wrong and rude of Xolani Gwala not to entertain the spokesperson of the minister. It was terribly rude of Karen Vaughan to be rude towards our Minister of Social Affairs, that's Ms. Patabile Dlamini. These reporters should either learn the indigenous languages. If they want to be reporters, they must find a means of being able to interpret what the minister says to them. We cannot continue to demeaning our people and have our children feel inferior to a white Western language. This is not contemplated in Section 31. Ms. Karen Vaughan purported to be an expert in the Constitution. She did so by reminding our learned minister of the Constitution. I appeal to all reporters and journalists to not demean our leaders. Let our leaders speak the language they choose. That is their right in terms of Section 31. If you don't understand it, find a means to understand it or report it using an interpreter.
All right, please stay on the line. We have Grant from Roodepoort, and we did invite both the material guests in the studio. They're not available. Grant, hello to you, and thanks so much for calling. All right, we lost Grant there. Mr. Thorana, just the fallout that has resulted because of this, where some people are now calling it particularly, disdain in the way that certain languages are treated, and that it's an imperialist kind of stance that we're taking, again, suggesting that black culture, black language in itself is not necessarily protected in the country. It's just in theory, so to speak.
The Constitution makes very clear that all 11 languages are equal. The point being that there's a reason why you become a spokesperson, there's a reason why you appear and interact with the media, and that's to get the message across. And if you lose the opportunity to get the message across, and right now it is absolutely critical to get message across, the silence of the Department of Social Development, the silence of the minister is resounding. And we need a very clear message from the minister and through the spokesperson we get to the minister to talk clearly and honestly about the situation as it is. We are not getting that message.
Let's get a voice from Professor Pitika Gantuli, African historian. Just your view on what's been going on social media and whether this is an opportunity again to engage in terms of how far do we accommodate our diversity in line of what the various acts would stipulate, especially when it comes to the Broadcasting Act.
Yes, I think it's quite a very unfortunate situation that the things that we should have set down and addressed, the issues of language, the issues of land, whatever else it is, had been left actually hanging up in the air. The discussion we are having in here, there's a growth of loud voices in our country that are calling for a cultural revolution, that want the language to be put onto the agenda. But again, Nalunga is also confronted with a situation that is absolutely very volatile and very tricky. If somebody decides that I can only articulate myself through my own language, Xolani speaks Zulu brilliantly, better than many of us. I've been in situations on radio where I'm interviewed by Mutsweding, and then I lose short of my Setswana, and then pressed up into isiZulu or English. Or people adapt. It's not a question of a formula that when you're sitting down in front of a person, you cannot adapt actually your stance. So they could have found a way between themselves. I mean, Lumka and Xolani, even on the basis of Ubuntu and as black people.
Sizwe Pamla, COSATU spokesperson. Sizwe, thanks so much for joining us. Do you think the standoff could have been avoided? Hi, Sizwe. All right, let's take a caller quickly. Tammy in Durban, thanks for your patience. Good evening to you.
Okay, sure, thanks, man. So all I want to comment is that it was very unfortunate or stupid for Xolani, to be precise, not to allow Lunga to express herself, because the majority of people who are earning this man or pension payouts speak vernacular language. So I think Luma was speaking direct to the people who are earning this pension payout. So it was very unfortunate for Xolani not to allow her to speak to the people, to the majority of people who are earning.
All right, Tammy, point taken. Just very quickly, Mr. Omar has to go. But just your view, I think we need some education or even level of tolerance, because every time we have these kind of discourse, it tends to open up other dimensions in society regarding social cohesion, the tolerance of our diversity. Mr. Omar, if you perhaps can, to educate us, especially when it comes to engaging in the corporate platforms or other sectors of society.
Look, how are we going to infuse a sense of Ubuntu in the South African people? How are we going to give practical effect to the right conferred by Section 31 of our Constitution that is headed cultural, religious, and linguistic communities? We must strive to ensure that we embrace each other. If someone spoke Afrikaans, there is no complaint. But this is a clear attempt to want to subtly demean the majority of our people and to make them believe they are inferior. When children look at Mama and Papa who can't speak English or Afrikaans, Mama and Papa must be stupid. You will remove the best in people if you demean the culture, language, and religion. We should strive to have all our communities participate in our economy and the social development of our people. The media houses must please ensure they employ people who have the skills in all the languages, if not, to find a way to interview, especially our leaders, with a sense of Ubuntu and respect. We should not tolerate such rude behavior by Karen Vaughan and Xolani. Xolani must please apologize. His media house, his radio station, which is directed at the listeners of all nationality and all languages, must or could have taken other measures to ensure that the message of the spokesperson of the state is conveyed to people of this nation.
Omar, you're breaking up. I just want to give Mr. Theron here also an opportunity to respond. And especially when you're saying the message would have been lost, one of the callers makes a very pertinent point that the majority of the social grant beneficiaries are, they probably speak vernacular, and that Lumka was within her right to try and articulate this message, which could have been translated, because we know the host is proficient in many languages.
I suspect that there's a level of truth in both sides, and the reality is that we need to learn to respect each other. That's absolutely true, and I cannot disagree with the previous speaker. The issue is that you need to at least forewarn the media house that this is what you want to do, so that enough time can be allocated. If you have 5 minutes to do an interview, you need to have 10 minutes just to allow for the translation to take place. And I think that was just the appropriate thing to do. Once again, it is the message that's important and not the messenger. And in this case, the message has been lost because the messenger deemed herself more responsible than the content.
But I mean, we saw this with Minister of Social Development addressing pensioners in isiZulu. So how was the message lost to the majority of South Africans who essentially are not beneficiaries of social grants?
But she used a particular medium for a particular reason.
Yeah.
This was an interview to discuss a particular point, and no provision was made for translation, enough time for that interview to take place. Hence the discomfort.
Okay, Sizwe Pamla is with us, COSATU spokesperson. Just your reaction of this standoff. Do you think this could have been avoided, and how?
Well, it could have been avoided because, 702 is an English radio station. If Lumga wanted to use isiZulu, she could have requested them to accommodate her beforehand. Look, it's sad because to a certain extent it does paint a picture of a bureaucratic arrogance at a time of a crisis. But having said that, also if you look at 702 and other English radio stations, they do visit areas where people speak native languages and they translate, they interview people. So both parties could have really handled this issue better. And unfortunately, Lumga didn't help the situation, but also we feel that the radio station itself could have been more accommodative because at the end of the day, she was not speaking a foreign language. This is a recognized language in South Africa.
Okay, Nati joins us now from Soshanguve. Hello to you, Nati. Thanks. Good evening to you.
Yes, ma'am. How are you?
Very well, thanks for asking.
Good, man. My view is that Golan was wrong on cutting Lumka because according to Lumka, the people who understand the language are the beneficiary of SASSA. So I don't understand why should he force her to speak English. It's not necessary. Doesn't mean that if people listen to English shows, there are no other people who listen to Zulu.
All right, Nati, point taken. Very briefly, Mr. Theron, just in the message that you think we might have missed out on had it been conveyed in English, or that should have been conveyed.
We are waiting for answers from the minister. We've been waiting for months for answers from the minister regarding the contract that needs to start on the 1st of April, the pricing, how they will deliver the service that 17 million recipients are waiting for. That message we still don't have answers for. And we were hoping yesterday in the press conference the minister will make that announcement. Nothing. We were looking forward to this morning's interview with Lumka. Nothing. So we are still waiting with 24 days until the end of the month.